Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Thank you for coming to this lunch. We're very privileged today to have Mr. Samuelsson, who's the President and CEO of Volvo Cars. My name is Eric Wishart. I'm a former president of the club, and now I'm a member of the professional committee. And I'm delighted we have such a big turnout for such a distinguished guest. Mr. Samuelsson has been the CEO of Volvo since 2012. In the past 5-6 years, we've seen a dramatic turnaround in the company's fortunes under the ownership of Geely. Geely took over from Ford when the company was really in the doldrums, and Geely took over in 2010. So it's been a remarkable success story, and I think one of the themes today will be obviously this very interesting mix of Swedish and Chinese cultures, both on the technical side and also on the corporate side, of course. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Mr. Samuelsson to the stage. Thank you. I'm impressed. Welcome. So please take a seat. So you're here for the race, I think, and some meetings as well.
No, I'm here for this lunch in this very famous club, which David has talked a lot about. So really appreciate the opportunity to be here, talk a bit about Volvo, and maybe before you start putting questions, some remarks, what really happened. I mean, probably all of you have seen Volvos and know about Volvo, a very traditional company, 90 years old, Swedish, and 99, I think it was separated from Volvo and sold to Ford, and then we experienced, not we, the people, I was not there, as you said, Volvo experienced 10 years with Ford, really not that successful, and then 2010, this was sold to a Chinese company that very few had any idea about who was that, Geely and Li Shufu. They were not really famous, at least not in Sweden. So of course then you can imagine what happened. Everybody was very nervous. What will happen now? They will probably close down everything and move it to China, more or less, was the discussion. And I had the opportunity then to join. And I think, it's an iconic Swedish company, so we're very interested in participating and making something good out of it, which was, of course, also the idea of Li Shufu. So really what happened, there was really something very positive for the company, which was quite opposite to what people thought. We were, for the first time, we were really a real company. Earlier we were a division, a lot of detailed instruction from the center, corporate center. Now we're a real company, a board, new people in the board coming in professionally. Geely wanted to run the company as basically a real company. And so that was a really good starting point, I think, because we really had to take responsibility for the company. There was nobody to ask for more money if we lost money. So we had to quickly be profitable. And then we started a big investment program for new cars, which is really going to be completed this year. So we have changed all cars into totally new cars, and the last two will be presented this year. So then that is gone. And the second really important thing that we made the company into a global company. Earlier it was a company exporting out of Gothenburg. Now we have, as we say, 3 home regions. Of course, Europe is the first one. And then we have China, very big presence here in China, biggest market now, 3 factories in this country. And we are building more cars than we sell in China. So it's really a home market. It's not just selling cars in China. We're building cars, we are sourcing components, we are developing. And the third market, home market, we will open up this year. In the mid-year, we will open up a factory in South Carolina. And then we will have industrial presence also there, also R&D presence. So really we have during this year made Volvo into a global company. And that would not have been possible without the support from Geely. So they have been a very good owner for the company, quite in opposite what everybody thought maybe in the beginning. So this is what has happened so far.
I saw you said, I saw you quoted, I think it was in the FT, saying you're actually more independent under Geely. Could you expand on that a bit?
Yeah, that's maybe difficult to say or dangerous to say. I think we have no interest in being independent and doing what we want to do. I mean, we of course have a strategy we define together and then we execute it. But I think we run the company as a real company. We discuss our strategies with the board. There is no micromanagement in parallel to that with direct orders from anybody. So I mean, Geely has always been very clear on that the board decides on the strategy and management executes. So in that way, I think it's a difference from being a division, because a division always have more detailed instruction coming on. So we are not a division anymore, and I think that kick-started the transformation. Now we have to take control of our own destiny.
You said there was a bit of concern when Geely took over, but it's been a success story. So how do the two corporate cultures make Swedish and Chinese?
They have worked surprisingly well. I mean, it's very difficult to say if it's Swedish or Chinese. It is Volvo together with Geely has worked perfectly. I mean, in the business, you are well aware of that. There's acquisitions being made in the business, and normally then there is a lot of problems coming up. And it's not that easy to start a cooperation. But if you really think about this Volvo Geely, there hasn't been anything that I'm aware of. I think that's a sign that it has been a very successful acquisition from Geely's side, and there is a very good match. I think because there is a respect from both sides. I mean, it's quite clear that Geely can help Volvo improving, entering into China, but of course we can also teach and learn Geely to make better cars. And I think also in a way with the ownership of Volvo, I think Geely has also evolved into a real global actor. It's probably one of the most global Chinese companies that I know of. I mean, huge investments outside, and also now works according to Western governance principle, which I think is unique and has made probably also Geely stronger.
And Mr. Li Shufu, what's his input into Volvo? I mean, what's the relationship?
I think he's, first, I mean, he's not involved in the absolute operational, but he is a very dedicated owner. He's a passionate owner. He really wants to discuss a lot about what we're doing. He's not that interested in the quarterly figures. He's more interested in the long-term strategies and our cars. So passionate, interested, and really want to develop Volvo. So he likes the company. So I think he's a great support and also a stable owner. I mean, the worst thing a company can have is being all the time in the newspapers, some kind of candidate for being sold or so on. I mean, there's been nothing about that because they have a very long term and it's a stable owner, which has been very positive. And that's, of course, contribution from him personally also.
I know you won't give me the answer this one, but an IPO, there's talk about that?
Yeah, I said I will give you all the details. No, I will be very boring here. I mean, that is, of course, something for the owner to decide. I think for us, we want to improve the company. I think also we should govern the company as if it was listed. I think it's good with the transparency and the scrutiny listed companies getting from media and a lot of other things. I think that makes us stronger. The worst thing we can do is hiding problems and don't want to talk about them. So in that way, we want to work as if we were listed, but that's an option, and Geely has to take a stance on that.
I think you had record sales last year. I mean, what's driving that?
It is, I think first maybe you should people in the company as number one. I think that we have a very motivated workforce right now, because you know success feeds success. So I think if people really are motivated and want to perform, that's a really good base. I think I would almost say that as number one. But then you also have, of course, these new cars, and you have a presence in China. I mean, 5 years ago, I think we sold some 1,000 cars in this country. Last year, we sold 114,000 cars, and we grew with 25%. So I mean,
colossal.
Yeah. So if we would take out that slice of our sales, we would not be that much bigger than we have been traditionally. So I mean, a big part of the growth is coming from China, which it should, because it's the largest car market in the world. So it would be strange if we would not have a share there.
Now, you plan to manufacture in China and export to the United States.
Not only plan, we're doing that since 3 years.
Okay. But you've got the new Polestar.
Yeah. We started 3 years ago, I think, with the S60. It's a small sedan we build in Chengdu, and that has been exported to the US. We were really the first car being imported into the US. You didn't hear too much about it, nobody here, because we didn't think it was something that was that important. Some of our cars were made in Belgium, some in Sweden, and some in China, and they are sold everywhere. So that was the first. And then we went further with the big sedan, which we now build only in Daqing for the world. Also, the cars we're selling in Sweden are built in Daqing of that model. So I think it's rather unique also. And the third step is this new electric car, Polestar, which will be built also in Chengdu. So that will be a new high-performance electric brand with a very tight connection with China, because it will, the headquarters of the companies will be in China, and the car will be built in Chengdu.
Are you concerned at all about Donald Trump's rhetoric about trade with China, that it could affect your exports?
No, we haven't had any calls from him about that, but I think he should be rather happy with us, because, I mean, I can understand the frustration from the US side if you just build all your cars in Mexico and import them into US and have no labor force at all in the country. We are selling Chinese cars into US, but we will now mid this year start a factory in Charleston, and about half of that production will be exported. So we are creating 5,000 jobs, I think David is right, 5,000? 4,000, so I was a bit too optimistic. 4,000 jobs, and half of those are really working with cars, producing cars being exported. So I think he should be rather, I think it's a good example of really that an open market and free trade is good also for the Americans. And I mean, that's of course our position we would like also to convince the American about.
How many people do you employ in China?
In China, we employ, now I have to ask David already, 6,000 or? Oh. So I was a bit too high also here, a bit over 5,000. But 5 years ago, they were 200. So it's a huge, bit over 5,000, 3 factories, 130 dealers, Volvo dealers, and about a big R&D department. So it's our absolute biggest single market.
So I mean, looking now to the future from 2019, all your new cars will be electric powered, which is you'll be the first major manufacturer to make this switch. Can you tell us how you see the future of electric cars?
Now, we believe the future is electric, and I mean, we have been discussing alternative propulsion for years, and we have believed in methanol, ethanol, natural gas, all type of things, and it has never really been any. We continued selling diesels and petrol. So I think now it's time for us to take a stance, because you cannot, it's like the hen and the egg. You cannot say, okay, we don't build any electric cars because there are no capacity with batteries, there's no charging station. Somebody have to start, and that's why we also want to make a clear statement that we believe this is the future, so that people hopefully then could see that, okay, now it's maybe time for us, if I'm a businessman in a power network or something, to invest. And it's not exactly as you said. We wanted to make a clear message. I think it's a very bold statement. It's all cars after 19 will be either hybrids, that is electric with a combustion backup, or pure electric. And then, of course, the old cars we will continue to sell as long as they are possible to sell. So it will be a transition, and it has to be a transition for a company like Volvo. I mean, another company, Tesla, starts from scratch. They can just build electric, but we have 500,000 customers a year buying combustion-propelled car, and then we have to bring them into the new world as well. So it will take some years. But I'm very glad we were the first company to have a clear stance, and then very many have followed since then.
I mean, talking about Tesla, I mean, they were pioneers, but also they've been having trouble with their manufacturing. What's your take on that?
No, I don't know exactly. I just read in the paper, but I can imagine it's not that easy to ramp up production. But on the other hand, that's probably something that can be solved. I think where they should have credit is, I mean, we have talked about electric cars for many years. These companies have also built them. Often they were small, more for shopping purpose, a bit environmental friendly only. But Tesla was the first one really to make a really high performance, premium, attractive car. People are standing in line to buy them. I think that you have to give him credit for. And in a way, we will also learn from that our electric cars should also be premium, high performance, and attractive. And that's why we chose to label them Polestar. And they will then lead the way for the Volvo Group. And what they develop can be used then also in the Volvo Cars in the second step.
And you did a big deal with Uber for self-drive cars.
So I mean, we have, that's another area where really things are happening now, changing fastly, and that is autonomous drive will come. And we think that is something for us very important, because Volvo is probably the safest car on the market. And the next step in safety is autonomy, because 90% of all accidents are human caused. So we need to lead that development, and we are investing a lot of money in it. We have developed a company together with Autoliv, another Swedish company with a very high reputation in safety. We have a company called Zenuity. They are now developing software, and our plan is to have it ready around 21. We are around 600 people in that company now, from zero just 1.5 years ago. And then we need also a basic car with a redundant system. It has to be 2-circuit steering, 2-circuit braking, power, everything. And that car we have developed with Uber together, and they also now placed an order of 24,000, up to 24,000 cars. And so here we are pioneering a new market, which we believe will grow very fast. So robotaxis, so fully automated cars for urban environments.
So you'll call up your taxi on your Uber app and your self-drive Volvo will turn up at your door. Is that the plan?
Yeah. No, you can go to San Francisco or Philadelphia right now and call for an Uber, and the likelihood that a Volvo will pop up is very high. So we already developed a lot of them, and they have accumulated a lot of thousands of miles already. But there is still a backup driver sitting and supervising it, but basically it runs automatic already today.
What about on the regulatory side for self-drive cars? Are you coming up against obstacles?
Yes, so far it's not allowed, so the law has to change, but as long as we are testing, I mean, they're always granted exception, but long term, the law has to be changed, because I think one of the very first paragraph is that the driver must always be in full control of a car, and that's of course not the case with an automated. So this is something where we have a dialogue also, and it's very tricky because in Europe there's so many countries, and we have a tendency to have a legislation in every country, and that will be a real problem here for self-driving car, because if you just come to Denmark and you cannot continue driving anymore, I mean, it's not a very valuable car. So US seems to pioneer this development right now. It's easier because they have more control of their states than the European Union have.
What about in China?
China is also very progressive, and I think that we are talking also about testing cars here, and there is a lot of activity also going on. So it probably it will be US and China being probably ahead of Europe testing these technologies as I see it right now.
I'll open this up for questions in a minute. I just want to ask you about ownership. You're also looking at a change in the ownership model to a subscription basis. I mean, we've always had car leasing. That was more on the business side. So the Volvo, your concept of subscription, what will that involve?
First, I think it is a new way of having the car. I mean, the car will remain. It's even though there are some areas where it's a bit of lack of room, but the car is still a very fantastic invention, giving people freedom. I think that's what it's all about, a premium car. You have a car always, and you can move as you want. It started with, you bought the car for cash, then you borrowed money to buy it, and then you started leasing it, and now we come with the subscription. So it's just a new legal form of having a car. And I think it's really having a car, owning a car is not that much about financial terms and legislation, it's having it. But today's way of getting a car is rather, could be very problematic. You have to shop around. It's very difficult to know exactly what is really the price here. And then you have a used car, you have to trade in. So it's not very transparent, and you have different prices everywhere. So with our subscription model, you have one flat price in the whole country. It's already negotiated, and it's also the same price independently if you are younger or if you live in a big city. Normally, otherwise you have to pay a hefty increase on your insurance if you are only 20 years old and live in a downtown area. But with our subscription model called Care by Volvo, it's always a flat rate. So I believe this is a very interesting concept for the future, and now we are developing it in 8 countries, including US, and we're selling one new car, the smallest SUV. And so this is the first step, and we believe we will continue from that, and depending, of course, how the customer reaction is on this. But we have got a very good reception, I would say, especially this that is transparent and hassle-free. That is appreciated.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to open it for questions. If you can, please give your name and your affiliation. Okay, in the corner here. Thanks. I think we need 2 mics. We'll get 2 mics, otherwise he's going to be running around. Not too close.
It is censorship. My name is Johan Nylander. I'm a correspondent for a Swedish business daily, Dagens Industri. Geely recently bought, just a few weeks ago, a big chunk of the truck company, Volvo, where you also is a member of the board. You said Geely has been a very good owner for Volvo Cars. What about the truck company? This is a very important question for our Swedish readers. What's the road forward for the truck company, and why did they make this acquisition?
I can't answer that, of course, why they did it. So, I mean, I can only refer those type of question to the president of Volvo or the chairman of the board. But I can say is that our experience with Geely, as I just told you, is very positive, and Geely has been a very positive owner for the development of Volvo Cars, so I have no reason to doubt that they would also not be a very good owner for Volvo AB.
Do you see any synergies between Volvo Cars and Volvo Trucks going forward?
It's nothing I can comment on. You have to put those questions to Martin Lundstedt, who is president of Volvo.
This gentleman here.
Two slightly separate questions. The first one, you are moving into very high-tech, very sensitive research areas of activity, both in your joint venture and your subsidiary and also in China. Do you have any problem in protecting your technical secrets, confidential information? That's the first question. The second question is about you personally. From what I've heard, which is amazing, which you've just been describing, you have presided over a massive successful expansion of the company over, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 years. But you've taken this in from what was basically a failed company, and you've moved it on. Firstly, are you a car man, or are you a general administrator who is able to see a good chance? And secondly, do you see your future developing forever with Volvo? Thank you.
Yeah, yes, the last one. No, we'll see now. You said technology and IP rights. Yeah, of course, that's always a risk, but I wouldn't say we have problems with that. But of course, we are very careful and protect that. I mean, that's in the interest of our shareholders. So that I don't see as something that we are a problem with. I have been with this company now 5 years as CEO, and I was in the board 2 years before that, 7 years totally. And maybe I'm getting, I wouldn't describe myself as a car guy. I come from the automotive industry, but with heavier trucks, the ones he talked about. And of course, there are a lot of similarities between those businesses, but maybe it is also was an advantage for me not being in a car guy. Maybe it's easier to see things that has to be changed and improved when you are not too close to the business. So I would say I am a very dedicated and very hands-on managers and want to have solutions, and the problems are not that different between trucks or cars or whatever. So, but I'm not an administrator.
But you, I don't know if everybody knows this, but you won an award last year as the Disruptor of the Year. Are you a disruptor?
At least sounds better than administrator.
Thank you. Mark Michelson, IMA Asia. Congratulations for being a disruptor and working with other disruptors like Uber and moving into electronic vehicles, which obviously fits in with the policy of China too. I want to ask you about your brand, about the Volvo brand. I grew up in Illinois, but a town where the most common name was Johnson and Swanson, and the bakery was called Scandia. So and Volvo always had a reputation of quality and reliability. Maybe not style so much, frankly, but quality and reliability, and was very popular and very well respected for those reasons. Has the brand, probably changed since then, but has the brand image changed in the years working with China? And if so, in what ways, or maybe not at all?
Yeah, it has changed, but basically because we thought, and I personally thought it was one of the absolute most important things to start with if you want to improve a company. What really should we stand for? And I mean, there was, of course, tempting to say we have to be premium. Let's copy BMW or Audi and have better quality and better materials. But it would still, I think, would make us a copy. So we really returned to our roots and defined a brand identity which is credible. So we went back to something that maybe some people thought that's commodity. All cars are safe now. No, they are not. It's a very important part of to build on. So we really said a Volvo should protect what's important for you. Safety and environmental performance are very important, and that I think makes sense also. I think it's credible because with our Swedish roots, I think we come from a culture where that is credible. And the other thing that makes us credible is which was something new then, because maybe styling was not really the top characteristic of Volvo 20 years ago, 10 years ago. But we then said, we are the only Scandinavian car maker. We should, of course, deliver Scandinavian design. Simple, clean, elegant design, which has always been characterized by functionality. It's not just, should not just look good, it should be functional. And those two elements, I think, makes a credible brand image, and that's really what we're focusing on right now. So that has definitely made the company more Swedish with the Chinese owner from that respect.
And I'm going to take
and our Chinese owner loves that, because I mean, if they wanted us to have a Chinese brand image, they say, I already have one company with a Chinese brand image. It's called Geely Auto, a very successful company. So Volvo should be Scandinavian and global.
I'm going to take a question for Florence, but I'd just like to say any of the guests in the veranda, I can't see all of you, but if somebody would like to, if anybody out over there wants to ask a question, please please wave. Okay, all right, got you. Okay, Florence.
So, yeah, my name is Florence de Changy. I report for the French newspaper Le Monde and the French National Radio.
And is the president of the
I'm
FCC.
President of the club, yes. Thank you very much for being here. It's our privilege to welcome you. First of all, following up on the brand aspect and the Volvo name, I was wondering if Chinese people currently already identify Volvo to a Chinese name, because there is a strong, of course, element of patriotism in China, as we all know. And then moving on to the Volvo race, whether this will have an impact on sailing in China, because it's the Volvo race, if Volvo has become a Chinese name. And of course, if you could make some comments as well on the fact that you first arrived in Hong Kong, I mean the Volvo race, and the tragic accident, and if there are some new measures taken as far as safety in this race is concerned. Thank you.
Now you have to repeat. Now I forgot your first. What with your first one?
About whether Volvo is a Chinese brand by now for the Chinese people.
No, I would say everybody probably, most people know it's owned by Chinese, but I think they see Volvo as a global premium brand, similar to BMW, Audi, and I don't think they really, I think they want it to be a premium global brand. But of course, I think also some people are rather proud that China now has a car company that is working on the quality level similar to BMW, Audi, and Mercedes. And it's a really Chinese-owned company. That's unique. When it comes to the Volvo Ocean Race, I personally like it because the sea has always been the way of communication and trading with the rest of the world. So in that way, Volvo Ocean Race stands for openness and free trade and cooperation between people all over the world. That's always been the sea that has been there. And then also I think we try to live up to our brand image in, for example, protecting what's important. I think we have a very big problem with plastic pollution in the seas. So this is a theme with this race. It's not just about racing. The ships are also equipped with sensors to measure this, and we have special activity with our people here to build awareness about this problem. And I've been personally involved, and I think if you look into this, you get an awareness. This is something we should try to do something about. About the tragic accident, I've just heard about it and being briefed, but I think first now, of course, we have to find out really how this could happen. But it's today, I mean, it's really tragic. I think it's feel a lot for those people being out trying to make their living fishing and being involved in that. So I think that was a really tragic, and that one fisherman, this poor guy, who lost his life, I think makes us, of course, less. We have to change a bit the tone in the race. It's very difficult to be very joyful after hearing that accident, but we will, of course, try to learn from that and seeing that it should never happen again.
Okay, thank you. Here.
Hello, Mr. Samuel. I'm from Bloomberg, and I got a question.
What's your name?
Stephen from
Stephen.
Bloomberg News.
Thank you.
Question is, there are media reports saying Geely will make Lynk & Co vehicles at Volvo's Europe plant. Can you give us more information on this? And hello, such as like when will you start doing this? And were you considering like building Lynk & Co own factory in Europe? Thank you.
Lynk & Co is really our sister brand. They are developed on the same platform which we have developed together, but really under Volvo leadership. So it's absolutely top quality platform. We build our new XC40 SUV model, the one we are selling on the subscription model, on that platform, and Lynk & Co build also vehicles. The first one is the Lynk & Co 01, same platform. So they share a lot of same components and powertrain and chassis. And we have also entered as shareholder in Lynk & Co, which will be a separate company. And we have done that because we want to help Lynk & Co being a really global brand. And we can do that on the distribution side, service side, but we can do that also on the production side by building their cars. And we are building the cars already in a factory in Luqiao here in China. So it's also possible for us to build the car for a global market in our factories worldwide. But it's too early to mention any dates or which factory. But it's an opportunity which makes Lynk & Co as the most credible global brand coming out of China so far.
Thank you. And question here?
Pamela Ambler from Forbes. You touched upon the fact that there's a lot of mutual respect between Mr. Lee and your company and the financial monetary support. It plays a very big part of it, and him allowing you to be quite independent in terms of operations. But we've seen so many deals with Chinese companies buying foreign, and I think a lot of people here today are interested in so many of the deals that have gone wrong, even with those elements in place. So what else, if any, if you can shed light, do you think makes your brand so successful, elevated the brand, and also if you have encountered any disagreements, how you work through that?
Disagreements, when we have, of course, we are discussing that, but in a way we would do with anybody. And I don't see any difference between China or anybody. I mean, we just sort that out. We have a discussion about it, but very open and transparent. So The success formula, I would say, is to avoid the temptation of micromanagement. I mean, if you buy a company, you could always be tempted, so you really know exactly how they should work immediately and send in a lot of people and instructing everybody working according to my procedures. Geely did not do that, and I think that's the explanation why we could develop in the right direction. So that was positive. Otherwise, of course, I would say the three success factor is new cars, very attractive. We have a new global structure where we really are global, 3 home markets, big China presence, totally impossible without Geely. And also then a strong, clear brand differentiated to other premium cars. So we really have our own identity in that.
Simon.
Simon Pritchard, Gavcal Research. Just on the sort of economics of switching over to large-scale EV production, I saw something, I think it was recently, Mercedes-Benz talking about the profit margins that were earned on electric vehicles compared to that on internal combustion-powered vehicles, and the EVs were about 50% less. And so thinking about for car companies as they move forward, I mean, if that much of the profit pie is going towards battery makers, and if the residual left over for the car company is reduced, is the outlook for big car companies reduced? I mean, I guess the question is, where does the value in the car business lie in the future? Does it lie with the traditional car maker, or does it lie with some of the component makers, such as batteries or software?
Now, batteries is, of course, one area which will take a big chunk of the value added, that's for sure. And that's an area also where we would like to see new players coming in and more competition to really improve quality, improve cost situation. But I would not agree with the statement that an electric car will have a lower profitability than a combustion engine car. I think, first of all, nobody knows what the customers will pay for an electric car versus a diesel car in the future. Could be a very big difference, that people are not paying as much as they do today for a combustion powered car. And secondly, the cost of the batteries and electric motors will go down. In the same time, the cost of the diesel engine especially is going up. Gets more and more complicated, requires very advanced cleaning systems, which adds a lot to the cost. So I would anticipate that we will have a crossover of the line here within some years. And then we would not have, and I'm absolutely sure also that the price of an electric car will be higher. It's a very attractive car for consumer. High performance, quiet, and once you have driven an electric car, you like it immediately. The only problem is the range. So you have to have more batteries and more charging stations.
I think we've got time for one last question over here.
Okay. I'm To Han Shi from MLEX. Just 2 questions. One is, how did Geely manage to overcome the suspicions of the Swedish Parliament and Volvo in allowing Volvo to be bought by Geely? And and what convinced the Swedish Parliament and Volvo to agree to be bought by Geely? And my second question is, to what extent did Trump influence Volvo's business decisions, like setting up a factory in America, to make America great again?
That's 2 questions.
The first one, I think Sweden has always been a rather open economy, small country, so we need to trade with others. So we have never especially said that we want to only have Swedish owners. So I think, but of course, as I said initially, there was a lot of people speculating, will this really be good for the company and so on, but that was allowed. Accepted. But what's important in these 7 years that has passed, Geely has a very good reputation in Sweden now, and earned by creating new jobs and have really turned Volvo into from something that everybody thought will be closed down into a successful company. So Geely's credibility is very high in Sweden, and that's why I see no problem at all now. For example, when they entered into the truck business, I've seen very, very little objections about that. So that was first question. The factory in US is really a global company, has to be global, not just selling cars. We have to produce them close to the customer because the cost of transportation is very high. And we also need to give a clear sign to our customers in the US, we are in US to stay. And we achieved that with this decision, so that changed a lot of the mentality, especially with our retailers, who also have to believe in the brand and invest in service stations. And that was also, of course, very important and improved a lot with this decision.
Very good. I think with that, I think we covered a lot of ground. I'd like to thank you again and enjoy the rest of your stay in Hong Kong. Thank you.
Thank you all.